Welcome to Caregiver Cast with Mary Elaine Petrucci. Are you overwhelmed raising a family, working full-time, caring for a parent or grandparent? It can be challenging when you're doing it alone. Caregiver Cast helps busy, burned-out professionals reduce their stress and overwhelm to create a better caregiving experience for themselves and their loved one. Caregiver Cast brings caregivers together with experts who provide information in a variety of areas. In each episode, you'll get tips on topics such as finance, legal, medical, self-care, community resources, mindset, and more. We're here to make your caregiving journey a more rewarding one. Acquire the confidence and skills to be a more capable caregiver by implementing the resources and strategies from these expert thought leaders. Get a community of support, resources, and strategies for your caregiving journey inside the Caregiver Lifeline community. Visit caregiverlifelinecommunity.com. And now here's your host, Mary Elaine Petrucci.
Hi, I'm Mary Elaine Petrucci. I'm the host for Caregiver Cast. My special guest today is Dr. Beverly Lawrence, and she will be talking to us about OM for success, dealing with stress. Before I formally introduce Dr. Beverly, I will give you some information about her. Dr. Beverly's mission is to help people with complex chronic conditions return to and maintain optimal health. She does this through her Dancing Bear Healing Center and her Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy. Her programs are all online via Zoom, where she helps people using various healing options and provides a variety of courses and programs using advanced spiritual development practices and holistic medical intuition. She's a holistic professional and medical intuitive, energy and shamanic practitioner, a medical hypnotherapist, author, speaker, and has a weekly podcast and sponsors a semi-annual Holistic Transformation and Healing Mastery Summit. Welcome to Caregiver Cast, Dr. Lawrence. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Most definitely. I know that as a former caregiver, I dealt with a lot of stress, overwhelm, and burnout. So could you give us an idea of how you started your practice and how did you move into your topic for today, which is OM for success?
Of course. Well, for a long time, I worked in corporate America and really a lot of stress, a lot of burnout. Didn't know anything about meditation, spiritual development, finally got divorced and literally crashed and burned.
Mm.
And got extremely sick. I've had 5 near-death experiences. I was going into anaphylactic shock several times a week. I was no longer allowed to hike, was rescued off Mission Peak by helicopter, Angel Island by ranger boat. And I knew if I continued on the path I was on, I was literally going to die.
Mm.
And the emergency room doc said, "I'm tired of seeing you in here. Why don't you see a doctor?" I said, "I've seen a lot of doctors." And I said, "I don't know what to do." He said, "See an allergist." I said, "Okay." So I went to an allergist. She spent an hour with me. And at the end of the hour, she looked at me and said, "I can't help you."
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty frightening.
So, yeah, now I'm desperate. I'll do just about anything. And at that time, I was actually an atheist. Another whole long story we don't need to go into. But I had had a hysterectomy years earlier, and I liked that doctor. He was very grounded, very mature. And I thought, I'm going to go see him. Maybe he can help me, even though I didn't need a gynecologist. And he said, "You need to meditate." I went, "What? Meditate?" You know, well,
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago, and back then we read books. So I got some books and read about meditation, and I asked around at work, does anybody know where to learn meditation? And someone knew about this TM center. So I actually started with transcendental meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And within 2 months, I'm no longer an atheist. I realized there really is this spirit that controls it all.
Mm.
My addiction to diet soda just went away. I had cancer. It spontaneously healed. I was just going through all of these transformations, and the people who knew me went, "What are you doing?" I says, "Well, I'm studying Reiki and hypnotherapy, and I'm studying shamanism, and I'm studying this." And I was studying. I had time and money, so I was just studying all this stuff. And they said, "Well, will you help me?" I said, "Well, sure."
Mm,
So friends were coming to me for help, and then friends of friends, and then their families, and then friends of friends of friends. And then one day this woman shows up.
mm-hmm.
I said, "Who referred you?" Because I didn't know her from Adam. And we went back 6 people, and I didn't know any of them.
Wow.
And she says, "What do you charge?" And I said, "Well, I don't charge. I mean, I had, a great job. I didn't need the money." And she gave me money. She paid me. She says, "You're
Wow.
really good. You should charge." And I thought, if strangers are going to come to me just, through referrals and give me money, I should have an office, because I didn't want strangers in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my I owned a company, ADBO Consulting, which I still have. I still do technology work on the side. And I started the Dancing Bear. I called it Alternative Healing Center.
Okay.
And I told people I was a hypnotherapist, but I was doing energy work and shamanic healing. I was holding retreats and all kinds of stuff. I was giving workshops. And then I wrote the book Meditation Demystified in 1999, based on the 4 elements. And I've since, in 2019, redid it with the 5 elements.
Mm,
And so my Own for Success program is based on the 5 elements, and using those elements and different meditation techniques to heal, to manage stress.
mm,
And then in 2002, I decided to go to medical school. So I went to naturopathic medical school, fell in love with acupuncture, went to acupuncture school. So I'm now a licensed acupuncturist. So as you can tell, I really like to learn.
yes.
And um,
Mm,
I found that if you can get that mind body connection, and there's
mhm.
many ways to do that. Hypnosis is one way. It's actually a form of meditation. In the Own for Success book, I talk about 5 types of meditation, and each type there's maybe 20, 30, 100 different in each type, based on the 5 elements.
Mm,
And each person has all 5 elements within them, but there's always one that stands out for them physically. It may be a different one emotionally and a different one spiritually, but you have one physical primary element. When you know what it is,
mm.
and you use the meditation style that is good for that particular element, you also know what's going to break first in your body when you're stressed. So
Oh,
let's say you're an earth person, that's spleen, stomach. The first thing that's going to go is your digestive system. You're going to have stomach issues. You might have diabetes.
wow.
Um,
Mm,
if you're, let's say you're a metal element, which is the air, you might have lung issues, large intestine issues, that sort of thing.
mhm.
And so when you know that about yourself, now you know how to do self-care, because with complex chronic conditions, I want to know what's the underlying cause. Because if you
Right.
only treat the symptoms, which is what Western medicine does, you will never fully heal, and you'll just keep getting sick over and over again. Whereas if you can go down to the base and heal that as
Mhm.
well, then it goes away. Now you know it's self-care to keep yourself healthy.
Right.
And
I
so if
agree with that
people,
because we're giving a lot of medications.
yeah,
And then if you're getting symptoms or adverse reactions and you're given medications on top of that.
mhm.
So I agree with you. Getting to the root cause is really much more beneficial for your long-term health and longevity.
Oh yeah. When I was sick, I had chronic headache,
Mm,
chronic stomach ache. I lived on Excedrin and Maalox. I was just that sick, and I'm obviously an earth element. Today, I never have a headache. I don't get stomach aches. I don't have any of those problems, but I know now how to take care of an earth element body because I learned the hard way that the food I was eating, I used to eat a lot of fast food. I never eat fast food anymore. It's very toxic and bad for you. So when you have those, like, one of the things that I teach people is how to look at someone's face. Mainly, you can look at their face. Sometimes you need to look at the hands, and you can tell what their element is. And when you know their element, now you know their underlying issue. So people don't believe me. This one person I talked to, I said, yeah, when you know what their element is. And she said, well, what am I? And I said, well, you're a metal, which is the air element. And she said, no, I've always, which is lungs, large intestine. And she said, no, I've always had digestive issues. She said, I've had celiac disease and pleurisy. Well, celiac is the beginning of the large intestine, and pleurisy is the membrane around the lungs.
Right,
She
right.
made my point.
Yes, she did. Most definitely. I have a feeling like I'm fire. I don't know. What do you think? I should be asking you.
Well, a lot of fire people have heads smaller than their body. It's a little bit difficult to tell here, but it's possible. They usually have very small teeth, and you don't. So it could be you're a crossover. Fire is heart, small intestine. And like you don't have a red face. It's pink, but it's not red. When people have a red face, they have a heart issue.
Right.
Now, if it's just the cheeks, that's called malar flush, that's the liver issue. But when the whole face is red, but if they have like a red nose and chin, that again, that's also liver. That's usually an alcoholic when they have red nose and chin, or they'll get the red cheeks, which is a different liver issue. But when the whole face is red, then it's heart. And going with that would be small intestine. So they might have SIBO or something like that. It could manifest looking like a digestive issue because the small intestines are involved. And with women, you can get one of the symptoms of heart trouble is heartburn. Whereas men, it's typically pain in the left arm. So what I tell women is sit up straight and try to belch. And if the pain goes away, it's your stomach, not your heart. And if it doesn't go away, get yourself to a emergency room right away. Heart problem.
Yes, no waiting in that case. Totally get that.
Yeah.
Well, so should we know more?
Hold up your hand like this. More back a little, yeah, like that. Yeah, you have actually you have earth hands. You have earth hands. Fire feeds earth, so you might be close between the two. Like I said, everybody has all of them, and you may have both fire and earth together.
So earth is digestive problems. Is that correct?
Spleen, stomach.
Spleen, stomach. Okay.
And fire is heart, small intestine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So stress, how can we deal with stress? Well, obviously, one way to deal with stress is self-hypnosis, which is a type of meditation. So if you don't want to do self-hypnosis or you don't know how, I suggest to people to start by going on YouTube and just doing a search for guided meditation. They're all over the place. I mean, I have an app. I have guided meditations in my app. I do a live meditation every Thursday night on my channel. But there's many, many people doing meditations all the time on YouTube for free. And you could do guided meditation. There's other channels that just have music, and you can just play the music. So whatever works for you. There's people doing chanting. You can do yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, moving meditations.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on what works for you. Try different things, and when you find what works, do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you settle your mind and your body and you get connected. And there are things that can help you with that. And what I suggest to people is essential oils because it's pretty easy to use. And so I have 5 that I recommend because if you try to do essential oils, it can get expensive fast. So
Yes, can.
where do you start and what do you do?
Uh-huh.
So one essential oil I recommend everybody starts with is lavender. There's
Mm-hmm.
many kinds of lavender. It grows almost everywhere. I have lavender plants in my house. You can grow your own. It's an inexpensive oil. It's one of the few oils that I think there's only 5 that you can apply directly to the skin that are also safe for children under 2 and safe around pets.
Mm,
Not all essential oils are. Some you cannot use directly on the skin. You have to dilute them. Some you cannot use with pets, and some you cannot use with children under 2.
correct.
With lavender, there's no contraindications. Of course, you'll want to put a little on your skin somewhere to make sure you don't react. And you want to buy from a company that has pure essential oils and not a lot of chemicals in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways of preserving the oils so that they don't have to have chemicals. One of them is to use things like vitamin E or glycerol, um, or certain other oils that
Mm,
are okay at room temperature. So that's why I recommend lavender. And like you can get like this is an inhaler, so it's got an open top, so you can put lavender in it and you can just
mm,
okay.
yes.
Now this one has lavender and frankincense. I have another one with just lavender. Or
Mm-hmm.
you can get like a roll-on. This one is frankincense lavender, and then you can just like roll it on this part of your wrist and
Mm-hmm.
then go like this and rub the two together. And there's some acupressure points, 3 main acupressure points or acupuncture points right here. So when you put some here and you go like this, you've just stimulated those points. And one of them is the heart. There's 4 heart points right here, which help with stress and emotional stuff. And then there's another point here, which is a lung source point. It does many, many things, but it
Mm,
calms you down. And then the point here is a pericardium point, and the pericardium is the heart protector. So
okay.
these are called yuan source points. So when you stimulate them with the lavender oil, it's really going to bring down your emotional level and calm you down.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
know for caregivers, I did volunteer work in a hospital once when I
Mm,
was studying to go to medical school. And this one nurse comes up to me and said, I need a half-hour break. Will you watch this patient for me? She has Alzheimer's.
mm,
And I only spent 30 minutes with her. And at the end of 30 minutes, I was wiped out. So I know that dementia patients and especially Alzheimer's because they have they're just paranoid.
mm-hmm.
They are just very, very draining. And I have a lot of friends who are caregivers for their elder family members. It's
Mm-hmm.
very stressful. That's where something like lavender and
Yes.
keep some people wear a necklace and it'll have the fragrance that's constantly coming up.
That would be
Because
calming all day, that's for sure.
yeah,
I know. I
and it's
wish I knew that when I was taking care of my parents. Yes.
yeah, and it's a nice enough smell that you can use it like a perfume.
Mm,
You can
yes.
either carry it with you and sniff, or you can use it as a roll-on, and and it just brings you back into a calm, steady place. Um, Another essential oil. Now, some people feel the most important one to have is frankincense.
Yes.
Fortunately, frankincense you cannot use directly on the skin.
Oh.
It has to be diluted. You cannot use it with children under 2. and it's not safe among some animals. So you don't want to diffuse it. Another thing you can do is diffuse those oils. You don't want to diffuse it in a small room where you have animals. So if you have it in like a big living room, or if you have a great room, like I diffuse it in the kitchen, that's a big enough area, the kitchen, family room, whatever you have, dining area, that's all one big room for me. You can diffuse it there. But frankincense not only calms you down the way lavender does, it also is a pain reliever.
Wow.
So, like, I have frankincense in here, and because the holes on top are open, if I tip it, some comes out, some of the liquid. And I hurt myself. And so I went like this. Within not minutes, seconds, literally seconds, the pain was gone.
Oh my goodness, how amazing.
That's an advantage of frankincense. But like I said, you have to have it, like this has lavender and frankincense. It's a roll-on, but it has the carrier oil. So you can put it on a pain point and it calms you down and relieves the pain. So that's another oil. Now, another oil I really like is tea tree oil. It also will help with pain. It helps with acne. You can use it for fungus, but I love it because I make a lot of my own products at home. I make my own laundry detergent. I make my own hair, make facial stuff. I do a lot with essential oils and making your own soap, making your own whatever, because the stuff they sell at the store is toxic. And tea tree oil is also known as melaleuca. And I think there's a company called Melaleuca that sells the products already made for you. So if you don't want to make it yourself, you can buy it from various companies now are all making products with essential oils. So that's one of and tea tree oil is also good. Like I think I said that for acne and for fungus, like if you have nail fungus. And lemon is also like that. You can use it in do-it-yourself cleaning things because it's refreshing, but it's also invigorating. So if you put some in the palm of your hand and kind of just breathe it in, and if your energy is drained, it's like, oh God, I need to sleep and I can't, just get yourself a little sniff of lemon. That'll really perk you up.
Sounds wonderful. I think I need to go get some lemon oil. There you go. Now really wake up.
You can do that with is peppermint.
So
peppermint will also perk you up. And it can be applied directly on the skin. That's one of the few that also can be on the skin directly. And if you get organic human grade, you can take it internally. So you can put like a drop or two in water. And if you do peppermint and lemon together, it can be used to help curb your appetite. And of course, the melaleuca or tea tree oil with peppermint is good for nail fungus and other things. So those are the 5 essential oils that I recommend that everybody have. If you can only afford one, then just get the lavender. And either use self-hypnosis or guided imagery or some form of meditation every day. You only need 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. And if you do that first thing in the morning and then in the evening, you'll sleep better, you'll have more energy. And anytime during the day I just feel ungrounded or just a little crazy, I have frankincense, what do you call incense? And I'll burn that and I'll just sit down and do a little quick meditation. It rejuvenates you, it calms you down, it gives you energy, and it puts everything into perspective again. Because if you're a caregiver, this is the greatest gift you can give someone because they can't take care of themselves.
No, thank you very much for acknowledging caregivers. Yes, they normally don't have a voice and they're not really seen. And I agree with you. They need to really be grounded themselves and to take care of themselves first. So if they can utilize meditation, hypnosis, these essential oils that we've been discussing, I think it would bring them a better, more enjoyable life and a rewarding caregiving journey, because like that situation you mentioned in the hospital with the nurse and the patient with Alzheimer's, I've worked with them as well as a speech language pathologist. So yes, I know they can be pretty challenging patients. I think if even I mean, within reason, I can imagine you need at least some doctor, I guess, oversight about using it with a person, even with the person that you're caring for, whether it's a patient with Alzheimer's or not, because I think that would settle them down as well, and make them,
I would be using it on yourself. You can
yeah,
test it on yourself ahead of time, get the
right,
feedback. Using it on someone else, I would be very careful. Like you said, I would get
right.
professional help first.
Mhm.
Exception of lavender.
Okay.
Lavender's pretty safe, like I said, even for infants and animals. So if you had that on you while you were around the patient, it should not have a negative effect on them. To my knowledge, there's no contraindications with medications in lavender. With the others, that's not necessarily true. There
Okay.
can be contraindications between medications people are on
Mhm.
and both essential oils. I use homeopathy, I use herbs, and there are contraindications with some medications. So I would be frugal using anything on whoever you're the caregiver for without supervised help.
No, I would agree. I mean, as a speech language pathologist, I'm very aware that you have to be really careful with what you do with patients,
Mhm.
because you want to maintain their health and their well-being.
Mhm.
So yes, I think if people could use lavender, which is effective, and you don't have to worry about any adverse side effects, I think it would be really beneficial, not only for the caregiver, but the person that you're caring for, so that everybody's more grounded and less agitated and can deal with challenging situations easier than if they weren't using lavender and being grounded. So,
Well, one of the things that I've observed and experienced and teach is if you, as the caregiver, are grounded, and people today, they're talking about their vibration and what's
right.
going on. So if you are in a high vibration state, and that doesn't mean you're in an agitated, crazy state. It means you're very grounded, you're calm, you know who you are. That
Mhm.
energy affects the person you're working with. So
Oh,
the more
sure.
grounded and centered you can be, so the more self-care you do, that will have a very positive effect on the other person. There's a reverberation that takes place. There's a word for it, and I just can't think of it. But when, if you have three guitars lined up and you strum the G string on one of them, all of the resonance, all of the other guitars will resonate with that same frequency. So if you
Mhm.
know what your frequency is and you're grounded and centered and calm, that frequency goes out and creates a resonance with the other person. So, but if you're upset and it's like, oh, I'm tired and oh, why did they have to do this? That resonance is going to come back at you from them. So,
Yes, that is true. Isn't that funny how the universe works? So you're having a bad day and you're not grounded. Yes, it affects everything that you do that day, and especially the patients and
mhm.
those that are on a memory care unit. I can only imagine you're just amping up all of the wrong energy and frequency and that can definitely set them off.
Mhm.
Um, I think this has really been enlightening, Dr. Beverly, because I think caregivers need to step back and really begin to realize that self-care is the first thing that they have to do. It's not being self-serving. It's not, you shouldn't be feeling shame or guilt about doing it, because unless you take care of yourself, you really can't take care of anyone else.
I like the analogy of the airplane. The stewardess will say, in an emergency, the oxygen cup will come down. Put it on yourself first.
Correct.
People may not realize this, but if you lose pressure in an airplane at 30,000 feet, you have 20 seconds before you pass out. You have
That's
20
really
seconds to get that mask on. You cannot help someone else first. You won't be conscious. You've got to get it on yourself first and start breathing. Now you can help the person next to you who is already passed out. So that's the same with self-care. You cannot help someone else if you're not okay. So the more you're okay, the more you can help others.
Great advice. So can you share any other tips that caregivers can utilize besides like this hypnosis, meditation, and essential oils to help them become more grounded so they can deal with the stress that they encounter every day?
Well, I think diet and exercise, of course, is always important, and what you eat. And I know you may be stressed and you don't have a lot of time. Fast food is really bad for you. It almost killed me. Do not eat anything that's fast food. I like if you go in my refrigerator, I've got cucumbers already cut up, ready to go. I've got carrots cleaned and ready to go. I've got celery cleaned, ready to go. I have food ready to go because I'll go to the store, I'll buy it, and I'll prepare it, and it's in the refrigerator. It's my fast food. So it's healthy, it's there, it's ready to go. Of course, you have to do, you have to keep it fresh. You have to keep going back to the store, buying more cucumbers and carrots or whatever you like to eat. But I also have a garden in the house. I have a hydroponic garden. So I have tomatoes and I have peppers and I love bok choy. Bok choy can be eaten raw. So, last night I needed a snack and I went, oh, there's a ripe tomato. I popped the tomato in my mouth. They're little cherry tomatoes.
Okay, I was going to say that was going to be a big tomato. And I was going, okay.
Yeah, no, they're cherry tomatoes. But the bok choy, you can cook it or you can eat it raw. You can just pull a leaf off, and the stem part is kind of like celery without the ribs, and then you get the leafy greens, which are dark green, which are really healthy. So there's ways of having food available that you don't even have to cook. It'll tide you over until you can cook. And so I just assume that sometimes, because sometimes I have back-to-back interviews all day long. I don't have time. So I need something quick, and I'll go have something quick until I can eat a little bit later. And that's how you have to plan. You have to assume, oh, something could come up, so I'm going to make sure I have healthy snacks available, so that I don't have to rush to a fast food place because it's really bad. The other thing is the importance of clear water. I only drink water. I drink distilled water. You can add electrolytes if you need them. I take extra amounts of potassium because my body needs more potassium. So you have to know what your body needs. And drinking water will ground you. So does eating, which is why a lot of people eat a lot. They need to be grounded, and so they eat. But water, just drinking water, and if you don't like plain water, make yourself some herb tea. And if you don't like hot tea, just let it sit until it cools off. And drink it at room temperature. It's very cool. You don't want ice. Chinese medicine, really cold foods are bad for you. But room temperature, it's cool because it's cooler than your body. Even if your house is at 80 degrees, it's still cooler than your body. So the water tastes cool when you drink it. or
Okay.
the tea or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's another way to keep yourself grounded. Peppermint tea is really great if you have a stomach ache or you don't feel quite well. Sometimes I'll eat something, it doesn't sit right. I'll go make myself a cup of peppermint tea. So
Mm.
there's other ways to you can put lemon in your tea. So there's other ways besides essential oils of excuse me, of using these same plants.
Mm.
It's the plants of the plant kingdom that really supports humanity.
Well, yes, I would agree. Diet, exercise, water is so important, especially if you're drinking the water on a regular basis, because I know sometimes I drink coffee, tea, and then I need to supplement it with water to get
Yeah,
myself.
they're full of caffeine.
Yeah.
Coffee, I cannot tell you how bad coffee is for you.
Okay. I know I did get off of it, Dr. Beverly, for a long time, but
Mm.
however, I just felt like the herbal teas didn't really do it for me. So, I mean, there were a few that I enjoyed, but for the most part, I don't know. I grew up on coffee. There was always a pot of coffee in our house. So
Well,
any
it
words of
depends.
advice would be helpful.
Well, if you have a cup of warm water first thing in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
that jump starts your digestive system. Your stomach likes warm and wet.
Mm.
And I've always felt that people that have to have their cup of coffee first thing in the morning, what they need is a cup of warm water. And it'll do the same thing for you that the coffee did, but you won't have that crash an hour later because you
That's,
crash later
mm.
with coffee.
Well, that's interesting because I do have a friend that drinks warm water in the morning.
Mhm.
Um, and I was kind of skeptical about it, but I guess now I understand that it's more beneficial. So I'm willing to give that a try.
And you may have done the wrong type of herb tea.
Mm.
There's so many different kinds. And if you're looking for a pick me up, and usually coffee drinkers want a pick me up, have lemon tea or peppermint tea, either one, both lemon and peppermint, or have peppermint tea with some fresh lemon in it. Now you're getting your vitamin C, and lemon and peppermint are both pick me ups, but there's no crash because there's no caffeine.
Okay, I will give that a try as well. Thank you. And I will report back.
Okay.
I now I am now tasked to do this change in my drinking behavior. Not that I drink alcohol, just let me make that clear, but I'll change the caffeine. I know it really isn't beneficial, but then I also hear that tea has more caffeine than coffee, so I'm confused.
Does, but you're using a lot less of the caffeine, and
Okay.
it's a different type of caffeine. Caffeine has many different formulas, like lavender. There must be 20 different kinds of lavender. Same with caffeine. Chocolate also has caffeine in it,
Mhm.
but
Right.
chocolate is actually good for you. If you get fresh cacao,
Mhm.
however you say it, and you make things with that raw, organic, non-GMO, free trade cacao, Um, it is actually really, really beneficial. It has a lot of good nutrients in it.
Mm.
For coffee, if you get the free trade decaffeinated, water decaffeinated, not chemical decaffeinated, organic coffee, and you cold. So in other words, you take the grounds, the coffee grounds, and you can get these cold pressers over the internet. They're
Mhm.
very inexpensive. And you put the grounds in there and you pour cold water on it and you let it sit overnight, and then it has a little plug you pull out of the bottom, and then the water drains out. You now have this coffee elixir and you keep it in the refrigerator. So when you
Mm.
want coffee, take the elixir out and then you reheat it. That coffee doesn't have all of the toxins and bad oils have been removed, because when you heat it, that goes into the coffee. When you cold press it, that stays behind. So you don't have the toxins and all that other garbage from the coffee. So if you absolutely have to have coffee, cold press it.
Okay.
That make sure it's decaffeinated with a water process, and it's free trade. I only do free trade foods because that way I know the pickers were paid a proper salary. They're not slaves. And then you want non-GMO and organic,
Okay.
and cold press it. So
Thank
if you absolutely have to have coffee, then that's how you do coffee. My daughter has to have coffee, so I have a cold presser and I make the elixir, so when she shows up, she can have coffee at my house.
Well, that's very considerate. Um, Thank you for sharing all of that information. I will investigate how to do cold press with free trade, non-GMO organic coffee. Okay, that's quite a mouthful. I really appreciate all the information you've shared. Is there 3 takeaways our audience should be more aware of when they're dealing with stress?
Well, stress, number one, is a state of mind
Mm,
and a state of being. It's an attitude. So, number one, what thoughts are going through your head? What's your self-talk?
mm,
Probably negative. Number two, you're probably tired,
mm,
which means you
okay.
didn't do enough self-care, which can happen. And number three, you're probably not grounded. So in the moment, I would, if I catch myself saying or about to do something and I realize I have what I call red flags, it's like, oh, wait a minute, you're not coming from a good place. I immediately ground. I correct my self-talk to be positive, and then I put myself into a calm state.
Mm,
Then, so instead of reacting, you come from a place of purpose and you act. And
mm,
then
mm,
things don't go from you're stressed and it's just going to go downhill to maybe you can say, this isn't a good time for me. I'll be right back. And you go do something, or you say, it's not a good time for me. Forgive me if I'm a little short right now, because you can't go away and you just need to deal with it.
mhm.
But at least you can let the other person know you have a problem and you're acknowledging it, and maybe they can help you through it. But the most important thing you can do is recognize it before it gets there, so that when you're doing your caregiver work, which you can't always say, please excuse me,
Right.
that you don't get to that point where you're so stressed that you just want to strangle them.
Thank you for that. So we need to be aware of our self-talk, our negative self-talk. We need to change that really quickly, and then we need to ground.
You need to
Is that-
ground, and you need to make sure you need to watch your energy level so that you don't get too tired. Because when you're tired, forget it. No, nobody's at their best when they're tired.
No, I would agree with that. I hear you have 2 free offers for us.
I have a little ebook I put together. It's
Mm,
called 5 Must-Have Essential Oils. So it has everything that I just told you about. And
yes.
what was my other free gift? I don't know.
Um, well, I was pretty impressed with the fact that you were offering 2 things. Let me just
I
pull
don't
that
remember
up.
what the other thing was. I have a lot of things that I offer.
Oh, I know. You are so benevolent in sharing your wisdom and knowledge. Um,
Let me,
you had a dancingbeargift.com.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. The Dancing Bear gift because I gave you 2 links then. Okay.
Yes,
So
you did.
dancingbeargift.com. My book, Meditation Demystified, talks about the different 5 categories of meditation.
Oh,
And I wrote an ebook that's like 2,500 words. And based on the 5 elements, it talks about the common barriers to success. Number one being emotional issues. And what are the best meditation styles for helping with emotional issues? So it goes through 5 common barriers of success and what type of meditation is great for that issue. That's that gift. I give that out all the time to everybody. But then I have the essential oil gift that is special for your audience. That's the 5 must-have essential oils. So that's a different link.
Okay. Yes, they are 2 separate links.
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful that you had one gift and then you gave us another. So thank you so much for that. I think caregivers have learned a lot from you today and how to best deal with the stress in their life, because it's been really a challenge to get caregivers to switch that thought that they have to care for themselves first with like the oxygen mask, because they just feel like there's no time. They feel shame or they feel guilt. And it's like, that's the only way you can help someone. So just change your mindset and use some essential oils and some hypnosis and meditation, drink some water and get some grounded here. And I think everybody would have a better day. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with everyone.
Well, it was my pleasure. And I always tell everyone to remember to be the light you want to see in the world.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is very profound. Could you repeat that one more time, please?
Remember to be the light you want to see in the world.
Wow. That is something worth meditating for. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Caregiver Cast today. Get a community of support, resources, and strategies for your caregiving journey inside the Caregiver Lifeline community. Visit caregiverlifelinecommunity.com. Get involved with the show. Send your email to mpetrucci2002@gmail.com. And we'll see you again next week for another episode of Caregiver Cast.